welcome to Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm an energy healer, and I'm a transformation coach. I'm really happy you're joining us tonight. You know, the reason I wanted to start Spiritual Connection, and you probably heard this if you've seen it before, is that connection is one of my core values. It shows up in many areas of my life. And I really want us to be able to connect with each other as well as connect more fully with our own spiritual selves. And if you've joined us before, you know that I have a different guest every week, and they share things about their spiritual journeys to help you on your path, as well as share things that they're up to and services that they offer. So thanks again for joining us. And tonight, my guest is Meg Reilly. Thank you for being here, Meg.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm really glad it worked out.
I am too. Happy to be here.
Great. So I'm just going to read a little bit about you that you sent me for our audience because they don't know you.
Okay.
So Meg is a holistic counselor helping people navigate life's ordinary cycles and events. She's certified in hypnosis, and she uses that to help her clients. And she's also the author of a weekly letter, which is a blog post every week. This is amazing. And the topic is living with compassion for yourself and others.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you've been doing this for the past 7 years.
7 years.
That's amazing, every week. We're going to hear a little bit about that later on. And we're also going to hear more about her other passion, which is she's a mandala artist. Or mandala, we'll talk about. I think you could say it either way.
Either way.
Okay. And she's created a deck of unique cards, mandala cards, and it's all based on the wisdom of the mandalas.
Right.
So I haven't seen that, but you brought some to show us tonight. Great. And then, for her day job, she is a freelance editor at large for corporate clients. I don't know how you have time to do all this and be on the show in addition. That's great. So, you know, I always like to start by asking my guest, just tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, how you kind of got to where you are, anything you want to share with us.
Sure. It's, I've been thinking about your question, because I was anticipating it. And my answer is from my family, from my father specifically, I would say. And it's interesting, because today is the anniversary of his death, 36 years ago. So it's kind of timely for me to be thinking about this and making, you know, really kind of tracing back, where does this come from? But it's definitely Dad. I grew up in a big Irish Catholic family, third of 7 children, and right here in Norwalk. My father really had a soul of service. And so while we had a very happy life and we were comfortable and didn't have any, you know, I don't have any traumatic stories, I don't think. He did teach us too, it was very important for him to understand, for us to understand as kids, that we were lucky. And so we should be, in turn, doing things in service to help people who may not be as fortunate. So a really pivotal point in my life happened when I was in high school. I was 16 years old, junior in high school, Brian McMahon. And my father decided that summer, 68, so for those of your guests who are old enough to remember, that was a really tumultuous year.
1968.
It was, yeah. And my father just decided that going to church on Sunday wasn't enough. It wasn't cutting it. So he decided to pack up 5 of the 7 of us. So it was I was the oldest of that group. And we went down and did a volunteer vacation for a week in Appalachia in West Virginia. And we lived in an old abandoned, empty school building. And literally set up sleeping bags on the floor, and there was just one big large room inside, and there was a little bit of a place in the outside, and we set up a sort of day camp. And he had some contacts. We brought down some sports equipment. We brought down a couple of sewing machines. We set up some horseshoes in the back, and we just sort of said to the community, we're here for a week. And slowly but surely people started to come, and it was really, really an important experience. It was the first of many. He continued to go down year after year for a good decade at least and do other volunteers. But that was the first one, and we were on our own. We didn't know what we were doing. But we did. What we were doing was serving, trying to live out this sort of philosophy of, you give back, you do what you can. And that's sort of kind of where it started for me, I think. Mm-hmm. So all my life that's been a core value, is just understanding that, how can I serve? How can I help? Mm-hmm. What can I do to ease your burden or share it with you or something like that? I think that's where it began.
Yeah. So that got you on a path of giving back and having that I guess it is a spiritual connection, because that's what it's really about, is a higher power. And
as I've gotten older, I've really sort of transformed it. I'm not in a church anymore, but and family is a very important thing to me, and I have 4 grown children of my own and now grandchildren, and I think that as I've gone through life, it has manifested in certain ways, certainly just as a parent, that's service, of course, but in the community as well. And so some volunteer work, and as I went through my education, which I did more as an adult, and had some services of my own, therapy and so forth in my life, adult life, I decided that was what I wanted to do and get my degree in counseling. So that's another way that I can help. And then beyond that, I got the certification in hypnosis, another way to help. So all these different ways to connect with and help people as they need it.
Yeah, so that's really the theme.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how the hypnosis works in your counseling.
Well, one of the things that I say in my description is helping people with ordinary events, ordinary people, ordinary life, ordinary events in the cycles of life. I think that hypnosis is good for just about anything. So, and by ordinary events, I mean the things that we go through. We grow older. We start something. We study for an exam to go into a college. We are starting a new relationship. We are ending a relationship. We are retiring. We are moving. We're moving in. We're moving out. All of these things are ordinary, and they're in the normal cycle of life. And cycles, 360 is also a theme for me, that everything is a circle, and that is a really powerful reminder and metaphor for something that we may be going through in a moment. Because sometimes when you're in the moment, it's overwhelming. It really feels like this is everything. And what I like to try and help people understand is, at the moment it feels like everything, but it's part of a cycle. And so you're somewhere in this cycle, so let's explore that, let's talk about that. And in hypnosis, it's just a useful, drug-free treatment for getting people to sort of get out of their own way and relax and get into their kind of subconscious, suggestive mind and overcome whatever it is that's bothering them. I've done it for test prep, I've done it for anxiety, I've done it for, picking at your skin. I mean, anything. It's just ordinary stuff.
Yeah.
And we all have it.
Right. I think it's helpful. I've personally tried the hypnosis, and I found it very helpful, and in a way that I didn't expect.
I think that's true.
I have to say that. I don't know if I really knew what to expect, but I had maybe some preconceptions. Yeah,
and of course people think of, the sort of stage hypnosis and the watch and the... But, it's really, in a way I think it's like nothing special, and that makes it special. It's really something that's, as I said, simple, non-invasive, it's drug-free. It's easy, especially for people. People maybe don't go to it as their first choice, but it's like, you tried everything else, try this. What have you got to lose? It's extremely helpful. It really is.
And you do find that that everyone does benefit. I mean,
I think so. Yeah. So far.
Yeah. So what other
tools do you have in your toolbox? Is there anything else that you...
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, over the last year or so, I have done guided meditations for free at Norwalk Community College with singing bowls. So that's sort of another modality, is just getting people out of, again, their head and kind of more into their energetic state. Singing bowls are incredible. I like them a lot. So,
Yeah, I agree.
that's something that I've done.
Yeah.
Just general listening and counseling. I mean, the
Yeah.
old-fashioned talk therapy is, and in a group even, I think, is very beneficial.
So you also do group
Yeah.
counseling, group therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That is so important, because it feels like in this day and age, a lot of people aren't heard, or they don't feel heard.
Yeah.
And so just to have that opportunity, whether it's one-on-one with a counselor or in a group, and I think that's something that we could probably all, just as not counselors, just for everybody.
Yeah.
Because what I do as a coach, it all starts with the listening. And then that heart-to-heart connection.
Yes.
And that spirit-to-spirit connection. That's really, to me, where people really start to open up. And once you feel that you can express your vulnerability, then everything shifts.
Yeah.
In my experience.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think the benefit of a group experience is you don't have to be the first one to speak. You can do a lot of your own listening, and you begin to realize, oh, I'm not the only one.
Yes.
And you begin to connect that way with, yourself and your own issue, whatever that may be. And there's some comfort in knowing that there are others out there too that have a similar situation. And what I love about groups is you also have a safe place to then practice whatever new skill you're learning, whether it's talking about yourself or asserting yourself a little bit, or maybe just learning to listen better, whatever it is that you're working on. And sometimes I think we are working on lots of things we don't even know we're working on.
Right. It may not be conscious that that's what we're doing.
And that may come up in a group.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So when you first talk to somebody, do you, what's the process that you go through? How do you determine what they need? I guess?
Well, I ask them. They tell me. And so that's where the listening starts. That's where, I think any good counselor does the same thing. You ask the person, you let them tell you, why have you come? What can I do for you? And again, it's that question of service. How can I help? And then, from there, you begin to work together. I mean, you listen. And sometimes it's sometimes you'd say to somebody, I don't think you need to talk to me, but I know somebody that, you move them on. The whole goal is to help your client move forward. And if I'm not the right person to do that, then I try to find a right person or help them find a right person. And if I am, then we move forward together.
Yeah.
But they are, they take the lead. I would like to think that I would let them sort of take the lead, but I'm there to course correct and check in and sort of make sure that we are going the right way.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not the right fit, then
you're not the right fit.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the service aspect that's so important to you, I know you mentioned when we talked the other day about something else that you've been involved with from a service aspect. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Oh, my camp.
Yeah.
Yes, my camp. I love it. It's near and dear to my heart. This is a volunteer organization. We're celebrating our 25th year of existence this summer. It's Camp AmeriKids. Local people might remember or know of AmeriCares. They're based in Stamford. And this grew out of that organization. And 10 years ago, we left and went out on our own. So we're our own tiny little nonprofit, and we are a camp for children with infected or affected by HIV/AIDS and sickle cell. And most of our children come from the New York City area, but we have New Jersey and Connecticut kids too. And it's free to the families, and it's a 1-week-long sleepaway camp for children aged 7 to 16, 8. We'll take 7-year-olds.
So during the summer, 1 week?
1 week during the summer.
And you have a location in
We are located in Warwick, New York now. I mean, we may, we'll move. We don't have our own campground, so we rent. We use
borrow somebody else's.
Yeah, right. We borrow it, but it's a full-fledged campground. It's great. It's got a high ropes course and a swimming pool and a pond for boating, and there's lots of activities. It's a ton of fun. But it's wonderful for the kids. It's wonderful for the families. It's really wonderful for the volunteers. If anybody's interested, we always want volunteers, and I'm happy to talk more to somebody else about that.
Oh, cool.
My role there has always been, for all of my volunteer summers, as wellness. So serving the psychosocial needs of campers, of counselors, and of staff.
Oh, wow,
And
that's a big job.
Yeah, well, I'm not the only one.
Oh, okay.
There's a team of us, but I am on a team. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been the director of the team. So it is a big job, but it's just so much fun.
Rewarding.
It is rewarding. It is. And kids come back year after year. Families come. So siblings come together, cousins come together. It's really a wonderful community of people. And we've had people grow older and, graduate after 16, and we have a counselor and training program. We've had people fall in love and get married, from camp. We've been around long enough.
Just like a typical summer camp.
Exactly.
From I understand. How many kids do you serve per?
About 130 to 150. It depends on the, how many we can fit. Well,
That's a good
as
number.
many as we can take. We want them all.
So is there a website that people should visit?
Yeah, and this is not intuitive. It's called Elm Project. So that is our parent company.
I see.
elm-project.org.
Okay.
Or if you Googled Camp AmeriKids, you'd also find it.
Kids with a K.
With a
Ameri-
K.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds,
Always looking for new people to come to camp.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Come to camp. Come to camp.
It's just for a week.
Yeah. It's a great week. It'll change your life.
Yeah. Well,
fun.
that does sound like a great opportunity.
It really is.
And it does. It sort of, to me, it harkens back to your original story about going with your dad.
Yes. And running a camp.
And you created that camp
Yeah.
out of nothing, really.
Out of nothing.
And
Yeah.
served people who didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that's
We
great.
really are. And I have many family members that are involved too, that volunteer with me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have my husband, my one daughter and one son,
Oh, nice.
nephew, a sister has been there.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we've had a lot.
But you were the first one in the family.
I was not the first one.
No?
No, my nephew was the first one.
Ah,
And we followed him.
okay. He discovered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I really, applaud you for doing that. I think
No,
it's really.
it's
But I
fun.
know you get as much out of
Yeah,
it
I
because I
do.
can tell by looking at you that
Yeah.
you just love it. You have a
Yeah.
passion for it.
Yeah, I do.
All right. So why don't we switch gears
Sure.
a little bit and talk about the mandala?
Okay. Well, so I'm an artist, and one of my ways of meditating really is drawing, and I got into this practice of drawing the mandala. Now, some people say mandala. I do. Some people say mandala, and I don't know. It's not a right or a wrong thing. I just pick your syllable. I don't know. But anyway, so I drew these mandalas for a practice. It was a meditative practice. And as I was doing them, I began studying about them. What is the meaning of it?
Okay.
And so, there are lots of different works and interpretations now. It's an ancient symbol and practice. But simply, the mandala begins with a seed, and that would be, in my story, the center. And so to me, this represents all of these cycles that I think we all go through, and I'll give you some examples. But the process is repeated again and again. Seed, blossom, bloom, rest, reseed, right? So everything goes through this process. Certainly human life. It's easy to follow that arc. Certainly, a year at school, a job, but even on a very tiny level, a feeling starts and it sort of takes hold and it grows, and then it sort of becomes a full-fledged thing, and then it morphs into something else. So feelings don't last forever. They're transitory. They move on. So in counseling, it's kind of a helpful metaphor. So simply put, that's kind of what a mandala is. So it's the 360 degrees. After I drew and drew and drew, and I had so many, I thought, this would make a very good intuitive card deck, because it's the process. So what I've done is I created this card deck, and I use it as an aid to do intuitive readings for people. And I base it on, I would ask somebody, what do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? What issues are you dealing with? And lay them out in sort of a circle form. And we start with, okay, let's talk about this. And we turn them over and follow whatever their issue is from where did it start? And then how did it kind of take hold and grow into this and mature, and then where do we reseed, and you turn over another card, and now let's start again, and you start fresh. And sometimes, you probably know, everybody, not everybody, the story from the Bible of the farmer or whatever whose seeds, some seeds fell on hard rock and were burned by the sun and didn't take root. And some fell among thorns and grew, but they were choked and didn't take root. And some fell in good soil and they took root. That's true too with lots of our issues in life. Some things we start, but they don't go anywhere. Some things we start and they go down the wrong path. And then some seeds that we plant really flourish. So just the whole metaphor of seed, bloom, blossom, rest, reseed, and the whole idea of cycles, and the whole idea, they go together for me. So I just put this together.
Do you want to show some examples?
Sure.
So a mandala is always a circle.
Yep.
Okay.
I think so. Actually, this is a brand new version. You may have it if you like, and this is my working version, which as I've used them over and over, I've kind of thought maybe I should use a different language. But so I have 36 cards, 3 categories.
So hold it up so somebody can see it.
Sure. This is sort of the natural world or the physical body.
Okay.
That's one category, 1 through 12. And they kind of go in the sequence of seed. The second category where we all live our lives is the mind or the cognitive category. And the third category is spirit.
Oh, nice.
And so
Really
so the sort of first one in each category is relatable. In spirit, it's potential. In mind, it's uncertainty. In the body, I forget, it's seed. It's just like a seed in a nest. And so anyway, without going into a whole, I haven't put the book together. Someday maybe I will. But I certainly know how to do the readings, and to me it just made sense. It just sort of came this is what this is. This is what you should do with this work. This is what it means. And so the artwork is the artwork, but the sort of progress of that we are all on this path, And so whether we're in body, whether we're in mind, or whether we're in spirit, we're on this path. And so this is just a fun tool to focus and to think about it. And again, all of these things they're just tools, in and of themselves. They're really just a piece of paper and some drawing. But you can work with that.
Yeah.
And you can really grow with, you know.
I don't know, I can see that. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like you did get some good guidance on
Yeah, I think I
doing
did
it.
actually on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is unique because I haven't heard of anything similar.
I haven't seen anything just like it. I mean, there are
There's-
mandala decks, and there are
there
lots
are,
of
okay.
intuitive decks, and
Okay.
you know, but not exactly
Not
this.
the way you formed it,
Right.
the way you created it, and the way you use it.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, I can see how that would be really helpful.
It is, and readings are just so much fun to do. Again, I mean, you get to help somebody, and it's just that connection you get to make with somebody and help them sort of see themselves. It's helpful to get people to recognize patterns in their lives that they're repeating that may not be working for them, and that's the whole. You know, you can break the cycle. You cannot plant the seed.
Yeah.
You can choose to do a different thing or the same thing a different way. So helping people just gain insight
Yeah,
into the things that are tripping them up.
right, those blind spots.
Yeah. So it's a good tool for that.
Yeah, very
It's
powerful.
a good tool for that.
And yeah, and to know, like you said, they have a choice. You
Yeah.
know, to me, that's a big learning in general.
Yes.
That I think it takes a while sometimes for people to get to that point.
I agree.
And you know, sometimes it's like, well, they don't want to know they have a choice because then they keep blaming it on somebody else.
Right. Then they have to take responsibility for that
Yeah,
choice.
so it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
But I think eventually, or pretty quickly, it's helpful.
Well, if it's done in the context of service,
Yeah.
if it's done in the context of how can I help,
Right.
what can I do to, you know, then I think you're on the right path.
Yeah, and clearly that's what you're about.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
am.
Have any of your kids gotten interested in this aspect of it?
No, not my kids. No.
No.
But they're very happy to let me do it. I mean, they may consult once in a while. They may joke about it or something, but you know, they'll, you know, they're not above saying, you know, well, why don't you just pull a card, see what it, you know, what the card says, if they needed some kind
They're
of.
kind of curious to see how it might play out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the people closest to us, or the last ones who want our, I don't want to say help, but
I know what you mean.
know.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. I agree.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I have one son, and you know, I find myself just kind of modeling kind of who I am, as opposed to trying to say anything about anything.
I live by that. I really did live by that kind of guidance, because, yeah, I mean, be who you want them to be.
Yes.
It's a lot easier
yes,
to do it that. Well,
yes.
It's not easy. I shouldn't say that, but I find for me that practice worked better.
It's more effective. I found the same
Yeah.
thing. And actually, that goes for anybody in your life. In my experience, that you know, the other side of it is seeing, you know, who they really are, seeing the best in them.
Yeah.
And if you see it, then they see it.
Right.
I found that out.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up for tonight.
That's fine.
That went
Thank
really
you for-
fast. But
Yeah, it
thank you
did.
so much for coming.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for asking me, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And thanks to our audience for joining us tonight. And I hope to see you the next time on Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. Blessings and good night. Wow, that did go fast, didn't it?
Did, yeah. Did go fast. Yeah.
Wow.